What do you do when your own government, the very institution you swore to serve, orders you to lie? When the Department of Justice tells you to brand an innocent man a terrorist, ruin his life, and defy a federal court to do it, for one 15-year veteran of the DOJ, this wasn't a hypothetical. According to his sworn whistleblower complaint, it was a direct order. His response was simple, just 2 words that would cost him his career. No way. He was fired for it, and now he's blowing the whistle on a conspiracy of corruption that he says goes to the very top. To understand just how deep these allegations go, you first have to know the man who stood his ground. His name is Erez Reuveni. For a decade and a half, Reuveni wasn't just any lawyer, he was a public servant at the Department of Justice. His job was to represent the United States government in court, a role he took on with distinction under multiple administrations. This wasn't some political activist. This was a man who led the defense of controversial government policies, including President Trump's travel ban, because that was his job. He built a reputation as a dedicated, by-the-book attorney, eventually rising to become the acting deputy director of the Office of Immigration Litigation. In that role, he oversaw about 100 other attorneys, managing the government's legal battles across the country. Reuveni believed in the system. He believed his duty as a lawyer was to the law itself, to the courts, and to the Constitution. It's a belief instilled in every lawyer in America. You have a sworn, ethical obligation of candor to the court. You can't knowingly mislead a judge. For 15 years, this principle was the bedrock of Reuveni's career. He thought it was the bedrock of the Justice Department, too. He was about to find out how wrong he was. The story of Reuveni's career-ending decision begins with another man, a Maryland resident named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Years earlier, in 2019, an immigration judge granted Abrego Garcia a special legal status called withholding of removal. This is a crucial protection for people likely to face persecution or torture if sent back to their home country, in his case, El Salvador. The ruling was final. The government was legally prohibited from deporting him there. But in March of 2025, that's exactly what happened. Abrego Garcia was arrested and put on a plane to a notorious mega-prison in El Salvador known as CICOT, the Center for Terrorism Confinement. This wasn't just a mistake. It was an illegal act that violated a final court order. His lawyers immediately filed an emergency lawsuit, and the case landed on Erez Reuveni's desk. Reuveni looked at the facts and quickly realized the government was in the wrong, which the administration itself called an administrative error. He admitted as much in court, telling Judge Paula Shinies that Abrego Garcia should not have been sent to El Salvador. He was being honest, upholding his duty to the court. But, according to Reuveni, in the new environment of the Department of Justice, honesty was seen as a betrayal. The pushback, Reuveni claims, was immediate and brutal. He says he got a call from a superior demanding to know why he hadn't argued that Abrego Garcia was a terrorist and a member of the MS-13 gang. His superiors wanted him to sign a new legal brief filled with these explosive allegations. The goal was clear: to retroactively justify the illegal deportation. Reuveni was stunned. He searched for any evidence to back up the claims, and found none. He was being ordered to lie. He was being told to put his name and the credibility of the United States government on a document he believed to be false. As he later recounted, he sent a direct refusal up the chain of command: "No way. That is not correct. That is not factually correct. It is not legally correct. That is a lie, and I cannot sign my name to that brief." This one case, Reuveni would soon discover, was just a symptom of a much larger problem. In his whistleblower complaint, he described a meeting where a top official, Emil Bove, allegedly discussed plans to deport a planeload of migrants. Bove, a former Trump attorney recently appointed to a high-level DOJ position, told the attorneys the planes needed to take off no matter what. Then, according to Reuveni, Bove added that if a court tried to stop them, they might have to tell the court, F to you. Reuveni described it as a bomb going off in the room, a senior Justice Department official suggesting they should be prepared to disregard a federal court order. After Reuveni refused to sign the brief against Abrego Garcia, the consequences were swift. On the 5th of April 2025, just one day after his admission in court, he was placed on administrative leave for his failure to follow a directive from your superiors. Less than a week later, he was fired. After 15 years of decorated service, his career at the Department of Justice was over. The message was chilling. According to Reuveni, telling the truth in court was a fireable offense. Admitting the government's error was a betrayal. The priority wasn't justice, but winning at any cost, even if it meant lying to a federal judge. By firing Reuveni, the leadership at the DOJ wasn't just punishing one man. They were sending a signal to every lawyer in the department. Your oath as an attorney comes second. Your first loyalty is to the administration's political agenda. Reuveni was forced to choose between his job and his ethical duty. He chose his oath. But Erez Reuveni wasn't going away quietly. Fired and facing the end of his career, he decided to fight back. With the help of the Government Accountability Project, he filed a formal whistleblower disclosure to Congress and the DOJ Inspector General. The complaint laid out grave allegations of misconduct, abuse of authority, and unlawful retaliation. It wasn't just about his firing, it was about exposing what he saw as a systemic pattern of corruption. The complaint was a bombshell. It meticulously documented how senior DOJ and White House officials had allegedly directed attorneys to mislead courts and knowingly violate injunctions. The Abrego Garcia case was Exhibit A. The profane directive, allegedly from Emile Beauvais, was the smoking gun. Reuveni even provided emails and text messages to the Senate Judiciary Committee to back up his claims, including one where he sardonically suggested they file a middle finger emoji as their legal response. This was a high-ranking insider with a distinguished record, now laying bare what he called a disturbing willingness by senior officials to undermine the rule of law for political ends. The story of Erez Reuveni and Kilmar Abrego Garcia is about more than just one lawyer. It strikes at the very heart of the American legal system. When the Department of Justice itself is accused of plotting to break the law, the foundation of our democracy begins to crumble. Federal judges have expressed alarm. Judge Paula Sinis, who presided over the Abrego Garcia case, admonished the DOJ for its willful and bad faith refusal to answer questions and its lack of candor, finding it stunning that the administration wouldn't even ask El Salvador to release a man it admitted was deported in error. The case exposed a deep erosion of trust. If a judge can't trust the statements made by the government's own lawyers, how can anyone expect a fair and impartial justice system? The point isn't whether Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a saint or a sinner. He was eventually returned to the U.S. only to face new criminal charges, to which he has pleaded not guilty. The point is that he, like every person, was entitled to due process. When senior officials allegedly order lawyers to invent facts, label people as terrorists without evidence, and ignore court orders, due process dies. It creates a terrifying precedent where the government can target anyone it dislikes, strip them of their rights, and punish anyone in the system who dares to object. Erez Reuveni's fight is far from over. He is still appealing his termination, seeking to prove that he was illegally fired for upholding his oath. This case raises a fundamental question for all of us. What does it mean for our justice system when the government's own lawyers are punished for telling the truth? And who holds the powerful accountable when they decide the law no longer applies to them? Share this story, and let us know what you think in the comments below. This is a story about a choice. A 15-year veteran lawyer was allegedly given a simple command: lie for us, lie to a judge, lie about a man, and help us defy the law you swore to uphold. He refused. That refusal cost him his job, but it also ignited a firestorm, exposing allegations of corruption and contempt for the rule of law that should concern every single American. The battle for the soul of the Department of Justice is being fought by individuals like Erez Reuveni, who, when faced with an impossible choice, decided to do the one thing his superiors allegedly couldn't tolerate. He told the truth.